I got music to play.
Oh, music.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this Facebook Live today. We typically have music, but I screwed up.
I think it's not.
I don't have music, so I could
No.
sing a ballad to you. Like, I love my dog, and this is so incredible. We feed him raw, and he's healthy as a horse. That's the first thing that came to mind. So everybody that's actually watching this now on stream has got to deal with that. That's our new music selection.
That was amazing.
Singing. So I'm so sorry, Nikki. So welcome everybody to Real Raw Health with your host, Nikki Burnett of Taste Life Nutrition and myself, Matt Rowe of Parsley Pet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and the health our pets bring to us with love. And Nikki and I do dabble into a little bit of human health as well, because we're both passionate about that and we can't not stop talking about that. So thanks so much for being with us today on the show. And thank you, Nikki, for being with me today.
Yeah. Thank you and everybody else. And this is a topic, if you saw the title of it. So, my dog was Spade and she pees a little bit. This is a topic that's close to me. And I think it's close to a lot of people because it happens. Dogs can dribble. And I think one of the biggest things as we just kind of jump in is knowing the difference between intentional and not intentional, and not, if there's a little dribble, not disciplining for something like this because they don't like it any more than we do. And you can see it.
I'm just going to put it out there. I do CrossFit. So if I get jump roping and I have to pee, I hate to say there's a little bit of dribble, Nikki.
It can happen.
It happens. And I'm really glad nobody yells at me because it's not like I wanted to.
You don't want to dribble.
No.
And like we have a specific place that we go. We don't want our area outside of that to be dirty. Dogs are the same way. They don't want their space to be dirty. They don't want to pee. You can see they're always cleaning themselves in their place, and they go and do their deed there, somewhere else, and they come back where it's clean. And so there are lots of reasons, and I think I want to hit on the multiple reasons that dogs, both male and female, can dribble a little bit, because I think it's important to know, and it's important to know the difference between your dog just going, hey, I'm mad at you and I'm just going to pee, or he is not potty trained, versus this is not something that anybody wants. And it can happen a couple of times a day to just a couple of times a year. So I think it's really more of an awareness of, what can happen.
So why does this happen? So you talked about Spain. Is the fact that they're spayed?
Yeah.
Could be
which is a shame. Yeah. It's the hormone change. So there's no longer estrogen and testosterone, and that keeps all of the parts, without getting too technical, right? Keeps them toned and keeps them supported. And when they don't have those hormones, then there's a lack of tone, and they just it's literally called spay incontinence because it just becomes weak and there's a little dribble. And I think it surprises them as much as it surprises anybody else. And it's frustrating, and there are drugs for it and they work, but they can create a lot of problems. And there's one here, I don't use them. So I'm totally taking this off of Dr. Karen Becker's site. This is where we go, right? But there's a drug called, the acronym is DES. So it's diethylstilbestrol. And it seems to be one that's used the most. It is also the most toxic. So there's another one called PPA, and it doesn't tell me what it is, but it's called PPA. It does show to be the safest of them, but can still have side effects. The thing to remember, though, so I think there are a couple of things to remember, is there are nutrients, there's supplements that you can give to your dog to help with this, that work just as well or better than the drugs, and they're going to be a lot safer. That's not stuff that I want to get into here, because when it comes to something like this, I think it's important to see your holistic veterinarian so you can talk to them about it to make sure that your dog's getting what your dog needs. Because there are a number of reasons the dogs have incontinence, right? They can have infection, they can have neurological issues, they can have age issues, they can have like genetic defects, right? Where the urinary tract is not as it should be.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so we want to determine where the problem's coming from. A lot of times, and I think most of the times, it's females with spay incontinence. You do have males who have been, they call them desexed, which I just think is sad. But it can be with males too, but it's mostly with females. I think also, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's just really what you're pointing to is that hormone imbalance, because you basically remove those glands that actually create that and stimulate that, or actually produce that hormone.
Yeah, so you're removing the ovaries and the uterus and all of this stuff. And I think it's important for people, and I meant to pull this up and I didn't do it, that for people who have a dog who they want to get spayed, so a female dog who they need to get spayed. Let me back up. Any dog that you need to have fixed. I'm not anti spay neuter at all, but I think it's important to understand that it is irrational to do it before a year. I think that doing it prior to a year is unsafe. It increases the risk of cancer. There are some that say if you do it after a year, it increases the risk of mammary. So if you do it after a year, it actually increases the risk of mammary cancer, which has not been proven. People will say that, vets will say that. I've seen it. It's not the case. It's not been proven. So the data is not good for that. So it's best to wait at least after a year, let them have a cycle or two, and then you can spay them if that's what you choose to do.
Okay.
And same with dogs, same for males with neutering. I think that's important. If you get a female spayed, you don't have to take everything out. You can take just the uterus. They do the same thing with women, and you can allow them to have those hormones, which is a better, safer option, but they're not going to get pregnant. So it's just not, I think that these are things that we're not told that are options that are available to us with dogs, and they are, and it's safer. And having those hormones intact, just like with women, can you imagine being a young girl and not having all of your cycles? I mean, it's going to create lots and lots of problems for a body to not have those hormones that impact everything that we do, from our brain to our development to everything. I mean, so put it in the sense of a human, what would happen if we don't have that? It's really sad, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, you're taking a look at it. You're kind of, yes, you don't want your dogs to get pregnant. And especially as if you don't want to, have a litters of puppies, get them spayed and neutered, but do your education, because they don't have to remove everything. And they don't have to have these glands removed. So then for example, I have a male dog, and Leo, when he was neutered, is there an option for me on the neutering side that I could do to have him so he can healthy? From a healthy context, I'm going to change that entire word to a longer phrase. Is there a way that I can do that so where he is actually getting the right amount of testosterone in his body so he remains healthy?
Yeah, I think that because he is neutered now, right?
He is.
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing is waiting till around a year. And then, he's fully developed and all of the things, is more going to change. Maybe, but maybe not. I don't know that there are options other than just totally removing the testicles. Can they do, do a vasectomy? I don't know. Maybe. That would be great. I think there are a lot of other reasons though that we, neuter dog or neuter males, there's the aggression and the testosterone. We know what testosterone does to men. So, yeah, it was not all bad, but You know, so you got the, and men don't usually do this, but you know, they pee on things more and they can be more aggressive. And, you know, there's some qualities there that we don't always want. So I think that you let them reach that year, give or take, and it's probably as safe as it can be. It reduces the risk of cancer if you give them that time, then they're fully developed. And then I think it's, as far as I know, you know, not a vet, but that's what I would imagine to be the case.
So then it begs me to ask the question, okay, it's done. The deal's done. I've had my dog has been spayed. My dog has been neutered. It's well past the point of me reversing it. So what kind of foods could I do, or what can I do as a pet parent to help with this incontinence?
Yeah. So obviously the more we feed them a nutritionally and biologically balanced diet, biologically for dogs, the better it's going to be, right? And so obviously this is Real Raw Health. We're always going to promote a raw diet. So raw meat, organ meat, bone, a little bit of veg if you want to, good healthy fats, you know, things like that that are necessary to allow for a dog to be as balanced as possible. Now there are some supplements that Dr. Karen Becker has in here. I've not used them, but I do want to say, because she posts them and I think it's good. So they're standard process supplements. I'm on the fence a lot of the times with standard process, quite honestly, but if she uses these two products, then I'm totally on board. So one is Simplex F for female dogs. The other is Simplex M for male dogs. I've not seen anything like this in any other supplement anywhere. And she also has some other herbs and things like that she'll use for other problems. So she'll use hormone replacement therapy, like bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So if you have a dog, especially a female, who it's just really a problem, you know, dogs are in the house all the time, they're in our beds and things like that, it might be worth going to somebody who is a good functional or holistic vet who does bioidentical hormone replacement therapy to allow for that balance. And is that a lifetime thing? I don't know if it will have to be for a lifetime, but you know, it's better than the dog being upset all the time because she's peeing a little bit and you're going, oh, everything's, you know, got pee on it now because she dribbles. So I think that those are really, really good options. So
so with that medication, this is something that's strengthening that urinary tract. That is, you know, you had talked about, you know, the strength in the muscles that are in there that can basically hold in that urine that's sitting in there. This is meant to strengthen those areas, I would imagine.
So those hormones allow for the tone. So the ureter, oh man, my biochemistry. Anyway, so it's toned and it doesn't open up. So that's what it is. It just opens up a little bit, goes.
And you get a little bit of leak that comes out of it. Sure.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is a little bit of a muscle tone. And, you know, we know that about testosterone helps with muscle tone. Estrogen can help with toning of these things as well. So they're really important. And it's a shame what we do, but we do it for good reason, but we've got to be smart about the way that we're doing these things. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So could it be, and I think it's always best to feed a good, healthy, raw diet that gives them all the nutrients they need to help to support everything else. But sometimes these are the things that diet can't fix, right? And so seeing what, you know, that's kind of why we want to talk about this is, you know, figuring out what the other options are and making sure that you know what is actually causing the leakage. Because you might think, well, my female, she's been spayed, she's got some leakage. Let's make sure that's what it is, because there are some other things that can be problems. So we've got, like I said, and I'm, again, you know, sort of cheating here a little bit, but age-related urinary incontinence. So if you've got an old dog, sometimes it's going to happen. And what can you do? Are there things that can tone it? Maybe. You know, I think again, it goes with a lack of muscle tone. It's probably some of it can be neurological, which, you know, doesn't allow for the tone to happen, right? It can be, if there's a little dementia and the dog forgets to tell you, you know, that he's got to go outside, you know, it happens,
Right.
it stinks. But my thought with that is, I'm talking a lot, I'm sorry.
Oh no, like, yeah, I'm kind of fascinated right now because I have a 14-year-old Chihuahua and we're starting to see a little bit of this.
Okay. Interesting, because that's kind of what I was going to say is, now you fed, you know, Mr. Cha-Cha his raw diet as long as you've had him. Is that right? Yeah.
Correct.
And so what my next thought was, is the hope is, as long as you have fed your dog as well as you can for that period of time, no kibble, right? Zero kibble if possible, and feeding good,
Right.
healthy, real foods. You hope that that dementia, that age-related stuff doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen as quickly, right? You know, we're seeing it at 10, 11 years old, and that really shouldn't be the case.
True.
So, yeah. So, you know, a lot of these things, so much of this is always going to go back to diet and being preventive as we move through these phases of life, you know?
Yeah.
Then other things, so there's damage to this nerve, it's the pudendal nerve, that can create problems, birth defects we talked about. So then these are a couple that I think are important to talk about as well. So there are bladder stones, obstruction, which stones can cause obstructions, and other things, you know, tumors, those can cause obstructions. And then of course there are diseases of, so what's hypothyroidism and diabetes all can cause. One of the things we need to be aware of is not just if the drug is the way that you want to go, which I don't advise. And I think anybody that we know wouldn't, but if that's the way you want to go, you want to make sure that you're putting the dog on the drug for a reason, because I think that those two drugs that I mentioned are specifically for urinary incontinence or hormone related urinary incontinence, Spade incontinence. And if actually what's happening is there is a UTI, so there's an infection, or there's stones, or there are crystals in the urine, then, or, you know, if there's an obstruction, the dog can't go at all. That's a problem too. Big problem. So we don't want to put them on a drug that then we're not actually treating or going after the stones, or, you know, whatever the infection, whatever else is going on. I know infection can create crystals, and, you know, crystals can create damage, and just, you know, it's kind of a nasty vicious circle. But
Right.
then that goes back to feeding a good, healthy, raw diet, where these things shouldn't happen unless there is, you know, so there's like a stricture that can happen. And so if there's a stricture, then it increases the potential for UTIs, which then can increase, you know, it just is a problem. And I say this is very new. I have a client, a canine client, who has this exact problem right now. And so she was getting lots of UTIs, and then her vet told her to change from, it was like a freeze dried or an air dried raw diet. The vet said, that's not good. The dogs aren't getting what they need. You need to put them on kibble. I know. I'm like, oh. So thankfully, go ahead.
No, and this is what we see in how our incredible veterinarians are educated.
Yeah,
on this side,
exactly.
is they're educated by Purina kibble companies, and they receive a very limited amount of education around nutrition. And I've heard it's less than 7 hours. I've heard it's a little bit more than 7 hours, but it's right around that number. And that's frightening. That's frightening to think that they are relying on large corporate companies to give them the education on the food a dog should be eating, when the stats are showing that 50% of them are dying of cancer, and dogs are coming up with other conditions like UTI, and they're having all these other, you know, urinary incontinence and all of these other things, that if we fed them the way that they're supposed to be fed, they could possibly pass by this and not have to experience this. that kind of that shameful feeling that I just peed and I didn't want to.
I know. And the interesting thing is, and this is purely, and this is what I told my client's mom, my dog client's mom, that this is my fairly educated guess, because the dog has the stricture. It's the way that she's built, right? Then the UTIs, then changed her dog to what most would think is a good quality kibble. It's Origin. So it's a biologically, whatever it is. Anyway, it's still
Sure.
kibble. You know, we went through all of the ingredients. Like, oh man. Anyway, and it's expensive. It's expensive stuff. So my thought is, because she then put her on kibble, she's dehydrated. And so because kibble creates perpetual dehydration for these dogs.
Right.
And so that, yeah. And so when the dog's dehydrated, those crystals can form. And if there's already a lot of bacteria, she gets constant infections. You've got the bacteria there. It's just, again, it's kind of this nasty little cycle. So a great thing for those of you out there who have dogs who may have a stricture or have these constant UTIs, D-mannose. D-mannose is an amazing product. And this is for women, it's for men, it's for anybody with these UTIs, consistent UTIs. It doesn't allow bacteria to attach to the wall. And it works so beautifully. We have people who are on antibiotics all the time because they get UTIs. Dogs, UTIs are on antibiotics.
Yeah.
D-mannose is a lifesaver. I have clients, it's changed their lives. It's like, I don't get UTIs anymore. So it's good stuff. They also make it with sugar. So find one without sugar for your dog and for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And it just, so do you think that on a level of some urinary issues come because of inflammation in the body based on the kibble that they're eating and some of these other stuff? Just on another side that just takes a look at it, is because this is what kibble does to our dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can create yeast infections because of the high carbohydrate, and dogs can't deal with high carbohydrates. And so that can be, yeast infections can be systemic, so it can be all over the place. So yeah, infections, inflammation, and depending on genetics is how different things present. So different dogs may present different ways because they have different genetics, but it's kind of coming from the same thing, which is a lack of good nutrient dense food. So if they're not getting good raw food and they're getting synthetic nutrients, which don't absorb well from kibble, they're getting potential carcinogens from kibble. Well, and I say this, it's one carcinogen, potentially two carcinogens the last time I checked because of the high heat processing. And then they're lacking in nutrients. And so this is the amazing thing about what you do, because we can look at what dogs are missing and what toxicities they're dealing with based on functional lab testing. And so this is what I'm hoping that my client's going to do, is look, and she's totally on board with the raw feeding. I mean, she's not done it herself, but she's a huge step beyond kibble. She's been doing the raw freeze dried, like, great. And it looked like it was pretty good. I looked at it. Yeah. But anyway, let's understand what's going on here. Let's see what's missing. Let's see if there are any toxins that are going on. Let's understand. I've said this already. What's missing? I'm repeating myself now. And so it's amazing that we have the ability to allow the dog to talk to us, because that's what it is. And that's what I tell my clients. These labs let your body tell us what's going on. It's my favorite thing.
It takes the guesswork out of so much, because if we can have that data and actually have somebody that knows how to read that data and take action on the data and share with you, the pet parent, of, oh, you're seeing this condition. You know what? We recommend, we saw this that showed up in the report, try to eliminate this out of the diet. So like, we'll see dogs with high amounts of arsenic in their diet, almost at a dangerous level, and arsenic will kill you. So absolutely. At some level, we are recommending, as we talk about the food, we see a lot of pet parents at that point put rice in the diet, which is not needed. we humanize the diet. So they're putting rice in with the raw, thinking, oh, they just need more. And really they don't. But what that rice is doing is that's adding arsenic to their diet. And
Arsenic and
so,
carbohydrates, both deadly.
bingo. And so then once we recommend to them, you know what? Save yourself the time on making rice. Just feed raw only.
It
And
saves so much time. You don't have to cook. You're just going here, you know.
Your dog, if it was wild, is not going into a rice paddy and making, pulling the rice and then cooking it on their steam cooker and then adding it to their, the rabbit that they just killed. No, they're just eating the rabbit. Right. And that's where they're getting that. So in a lot of cases, we do humanize it. So I do want to point out, thank you very much. As anybody that is a loyal follower of us, you'll notice I'm in a different location. Because of all the COVID lockdowns, my wife is in our home office. She has clients that she's doing. I have teenagers that are doing it. And so I'm actually up here in our room right now with Leo, my dog. Leo, do you want to say hi? Leo.
Leo's amazing.
Leo, come here. All right, he's going to come over. Come here. He's getting up. So that is
Leo. What's up, dude?
Making his big stretch. So Leo was in a fencing fighting incident earlier this week where he had his lip got attached to, and the other dog punctured his lip and tore it open. Do you think this slowed him down? Not at all.
No.
There's
no he probably doesn't even feel it.
No, didn't even. He's just like, yeah, whatever. I was going to go get that dog, Dad. Give me another shot. So yeah. So from this is, during this time that we're all locked down, is definitely make sure that you are exercising your dog.
Yeah.
You're taking them outside. I mean, at this time that maybe, when you were working outside of the home, you were walking them once a day. Well, now I think you have an opportunity to walk them a couple times a day if the weather's nice and it's not raining or snowing on you. Even if snowing, your dog will love it. And so it's really on that side is taking the time to exercise your dog and to feed them well and to love them during this time. There's a lot of stress going on in the world, as he is right now. So we're going to leave that as an end point. Leo, come. Leo. All right. So, all right. Thank you guys, everybody, for being on the show today and for following us. Thank you, Nikki, so much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see y'all later.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.